Hello guys and welcome to part 11. This video will be mostly about dodging, and from there we'll be moving to more AI focused videos and then the interaction between the AI and the player in terms of combat. So let's go into dodge right away and let's decide on how do we want dodge to be performed. By default we have on the player character we have a dodge input, and the dodge input is assigned here. As you can see, it will run this input buffer thing. If there's no buffering, to run the dodge state. Now the dodge state is not assigned, but it's already created. However, before we go into the dodge state, let's just take a look at what type of input exists in dodge. So if you just type dodge here, you will see the input, and if you try deleting it, it will tell you where is that being referenced in. So if you go here and search for dodge, you will find it's under the spacebar. So the moment you click spacebar, by tapping it of course, because holding spacebar will also make you sprint. So typing it will try to run dodge if it exists. Now in our scenario in the protector it doesn't, so let's create that. Okay, go to the data asset itself, and just like equip, dodge is very similar. Let's just assign it first. And let's take a look at how does dodge really function. Dodge state. Now just like the equip, like I mentioned, it's even simpler. When the state itself fires, it will run the parent, and from there it will run the selected, and after that to run the selected ability. Now we know that the selected ability will run based on the assigned abilities in the data asset itself. And you cannot have a selected ability as long before you even check for this thing. So to have a selected ability, you must have a return value of true for one of the abilities that you have assigned. So for us, let's create, there is one also created. It's called the dodge ability for the player. We don't care about perfect dodge, just take player dodge for now. Let's take a look at this one. The conditions already has a montage in the data asset. We don't have that yet, we have to look into it. And B being in combat as well as having a weapon. So let's assign the montages and let's create those. But first let's assign the dodge ability here. And the montages, we will do them in a little bit. Now dodging have four directions: forward, right, left and backward. Let's take a look at those and do them one by one. So we have dodge forward, and let's double make sure this is root. In fact it is. And let's take these four: 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's create montages out of all of them. Double make sure everything has root motion. Don't forget this point, it's very important. From there, let me just end current active ability for all of them. I'm just gonna copy paste that for all. And let's assign these montages right away. So let me start with forward. Let's put right is here, forward will be here, left will be here. And backward will be the last one. Now let's take a look at the ability itself and to see or understand how is it actually firing. First of all, after the condition is true, this one will be true. Then it will try to fire the ability itself, and the start ability will fire. Now we'll get the montages, and from there we're checking for a dodge angle. Now dodge angle is calculated based on the input direction. Based on the angle between the input direction and whatever you are facing as a player character. So if you're looking forward and you click A, you're dodging sideways, so to the left. Now what this function will do is it will get you a specific angle and it will check against that angle. So for now, between -45 and 50, which can be considered as a pi in this case, so if we take a pi like this, and we divide this into like that, to like something similar to this, excuse my uh, painting skills. This will be minus 45 and this one will be 45. So if it's between this angle, it's forward. If it is between this angle and this angle, this one will be around 135. And if you go between this angle and this angle, it's minus 135. And everything in between minus 35 to minus 180 will be backward, as well as this part right here from 180 to 135. So we consider these. Sorry, let me pick a different color. We consider this as backward. This is left. This one is right, and this one is forward. Based on this one, this is how these numbers are assigned. Minus 45 to 50 is forward. So if we take the first index, which is 0, it will be forward. And this is how it's assigned. This is how it picks it. So 0 from the dodge montages is the forward. The right was the second one. And for the right value, it will be 45 to 135, which is this angle right here. And the left one would be the minus 35. Remember here, the numbers are flipped because this is a minus. Minus 135 to minus 45. And then everything else will be backward. This is for stamina. You might not need this, so you can safely ignore or even delete this part. You will receive it already deleted, so don't worry about it. So for this part, we don't have any issues when it comes to deciding the deciding factor for the dodges. If you don't want to depend on angles, just rework this part or just change it. And once it ends, it puts it back to idle, and it will go back to it will go back to decide next state. So let me just demonstrate for now, and we can discuss the details. First, let me enable the debugger, and let me equip my weapon. Let me target just to be safe. Move with A and then dodge, and this is how it is right now. Same thing for the other direction. If we move forward, to dodge forward. If we go with S and hit space, you dodge backward. Of course, if you're holding W and D at the same time, when you dodge, you're still dodging forward, and this is kind of impractical. We will be changing this one based on the input direction, just like we just demonstrated in the attacking. But for the dodging, it's a little different, so we will explain this in a little bit. But for now, let's double check how the thing works. So first of all, this will try to run. After that, this will try to run. This function, sorry. This function will try to run this one. And then this one will fire. If this fires, this one will fire. Now I added all these breakpoints just so you can again reimagine it in your head. So let me equip and let me dodge. First of all, from the input, it will try to perform the state. Then from this, it went to this function, since we already have a condition check here. This function will try to run all the abilities assigned in the data asset. So for dodge state, we have this one. The order here matters. Be very careful here. If you have more than one, it will try to run all of them in order. The first one that succeeds, it will pick that one, and it will ignore the rest. This one will run the can perform ability in the ability itself. If this returns true, it will go back to the dodge state. It will start the state, and in the state, since it starts, it will try to perform the selected ability, in this case, which is player dodge ability. Once this runs, the start ability will fire, and from there it will pick the montages. Just keep that in your mind. Aside of the animation picking, we still have, remember the end ability which you assigned here as well? Now to recap why we return back to idle, is because this is here. Now preferably, like I was telling you, do not make the ability decide the state for you. So in my case, I'm going to be moving this. You can do it this way, or you can go to the state and remember decide next state that we had? You can add it here. So rather than deciding it here, being consistent here is important. So you can remove this since it doesn't really do anything. Go to the dodge state, decide next state, and just put this here. Now, if we do the same thing, check the state, you can do this, dodge, back to idle. If I remove this one, watch what happens. I'm back to none. There's no state at all. So whatever I do right now, look, I have nothing. That's not a good thing. So always keep a backup state for whenever the state itself fails or the ability itself is over or when you end it. Preferably in decide. There is a lot of examples in TCF, some of which will run the end ability and the end ability itself will put a specific state, or the decide next step will put it. Either is okay, don't worry about it. So since we're done with deciding the start and the end of the abilities itself, now let's worry about the rotation we're having while we are doing our animation. So for example, this is forward. So when you move forward, you might want to slightly rotate if the enemy you're facing is a little bit moving, you know? And whenever you do some kind of uh, diagonal movement like W and D and W and A or S and A together, you wanna change a little bit of what you're rotating towards. So let's rotate you toward uh, the inputs you're doing it while you're dodging at the same time. Alright, so let me start with the forward. And forward, let's add the standard rotation that we had before. Adding it somewhere around here is okay. And the rotation will be the input direction. If you enable this, you'll see these values. You can keep it like this for now. Don't try to change these values. The alpha you can increase if you like. Now let me copy this and apply the exact opposite on the backward. Now when you move backward, somewhere around this, you need to inverse the input direction. So make sure this is ticked. For right and left, let's go with left. Somewhere around there. We'll use the same thing. The yaw offset will be 90 for the left. For the right, it will be minus 90. These numbers are important for when you're dodging uh, with directions. So because we're modifying left to something like left forward or left backward, these values are important, so keep that in mind. And now let's try. Now if we try this and we lock on, click W, still moves forward, backward, no problem, A, no problem. W and D, if you try doing it, it's still not working. What about W and A? Not working either. So let's take a look at why is it really failing. Now, standard rotation will try to run whatever you have there, right? So let's pick forward as an example here and just focus on W and D until it actually works. So rotate to input direction. If you go check in the plugins and type rotate to input direction, if you open this up, remember this will take for the duration of the notify. Let's add a breakpoint here and let's find out. If you equip, lock on, W and D, hold, and this is failing. Now the reason behind it failing, let's double check again. Let's put it here somewhere. This is true, which is controlled by a player character, and I have a targeting component. However, if you go here, it's gonna return false. Now the reason behind it being false is because I already have someone I'm targeting. So we have the rotate to input direction which we used on attacking. Me not targeting is okay, but for the sake of dodging, we should flip this. So we need a different type of rotate to input direction when it comes to dodging. So I'm gonna create this and you guys can do the same. So let me stop for now and let's go here And let me just duplicate this and call this dodge at the end. And rather than using uh, this one, let's use the dodge one we just created. And remember the values that we have. So I'm gonna keep it at -1, and I'm gonna do the rest the same for the rest. So 90 here, remember. Let's put this 90. For the right, we had -90. And the backward, we had the inverse. And let me expand on this a tiny little bit. And now let's try and see if this actually gives you something like we are expecting it to run. And don't forget, by the way, to change this part from here to here. Or if you don't care about who are you targeting, you can just simply remove this part, keep it as player controlled, and we're only using dodge um, for the dodge, the rotate to input direction dodge for when you're dodging, so you know that this is actually going to run. Now if we do this forward and dodge, let's just remove this part. We know it's gonna be true. We're dodging forward, backward, same thing. Now let me hold W and D and watch what happened. I removed literally in the middle between W and D, and the other direction when it comes to A is also working. S and A, no problem. S and D, also no problem. And now I'm not looking anymore. Now when you're dodging without looking onto anybody, you're still doing okay, because the dodge direction will depend on whichever you're looking when it comes to the direction of the character and the inputs. So always keep this in mind. So when it comes to dodging, I think this is it. In the next video, we'll focus on AI, and from there we're gonna go into combat and everything in between attributes, how much damage is done, when is it done, when is it a block, when is it a hit, and everything else. So see you guys in the next video.